Welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be talking about some of the stuff that happened with the latest Black Friday sale, what we found out about some of the different things that Rare's going to be putting out there into the world, and maybe if you want them. Also, a couple stories from you, and that's about it for this week. So let's dive into it. All right, pirates. So this week, I wanted to thank all the patrons. The patrons keep coming, they keep joining, and they keep supporting me. It has made a huge difference in how I take care of the podcast. Their support means a lot to me, and they get the benefits of having their name called out on the show. So I wanted to thank Cosmic Johnson for signing up, Regis Stilla. I wanted to thank Brett Bristow, as well as Big Bad Pad, CJ, Chateau Noof, and as well as El Jefe Esteban. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, for supporting the podcast. I've been doing this for years now. We're moving into what is it now? Gosh, we're going into the third year, I guess now, and it means a lot. They get the podcast ad free. They get the podcast on a special feed. So if you head over to the Patreon and you want to get the ad free version, there's a special RSS feed that you can put into your podcatcher of choice to automatically get the episode downloaded to you free. For that as well too, or not free. I guess you have to pay for the Patreon in that instance, but I just appreciate them doing this. It means a lot to me, and I'm thankful for their support. And if you don't have a way to support me through Patreon, that's fine. If you sail around and you're talking to people, toss out Keelhauled podcast as a recommendation for news and stuff. I always want to make sure that you guys are getting all of the news that comes out, whether it's interesting or not. Maybe it's just a weird thing. And I think that was one of those things where I have been really enjoying just kind of sharing your stories as well too. So news, stories, my thoughts on what's coming down the line. I think we have some really interesting things that are coming in the near future that I can't wait to talk about when maybe a little more hints get pushed to it. If you know that there was a tweet that I put out recently about a picture that I had with Lorena and the caption, I think I might be having a little teaser there. So check that out if you guys happen to find it. If you saw it and you read it and you didn't think much of it, maybe take another look at that, because that might have something to do with the future. It's tough to say, but I'll see if I can grab that link to that post and leave it in the show notes. But yeah, there's some changes on the seas. The wind is changing with old CaptainLogun. I've been on the seas a long time. I've seen a lot of stuff, and maybe it's time to maybe reevaluate how I look at things and give some things some different thoughts. You know, maybe not Arena. Arena is still kind of in the same spot, but there's some people out there that maybe I could warm up to, I guess you could say. Boy there, pirates. I hope you're all having a great time, a great week, a great holiday. It is Thanksgiving here in the States, and we are celebrating it the way we normally do as best we can, given the circumstances that we're dealing with right now, which is a vague way of saying that coconut fever sucks, and a lot of friends and family don't get to hang out the way they typically do. Maybe that's for the best, though. Although I hear a lot of bad stories at Thanksgiving from family members that you probably don't want to be around. So if that's you, awesome. If it's not, I'm sorry. But we don't have a whole lot of news going on in Sea of Thieves. In fact, it's been rather quiet, but I imagine some of that probably has to do with the fact that a lot of what's going on is not in the game. It's actually outside of the game. And we're talking about Black Friday. That's right. Every year around this time, Black Friday comes around, and a lot of companies partake in the sales, a way to push content, or not content, but, cosmetics, or no, what am I trying to say? Merchandise. They're trying to sell merchandise. And we've had a lot of stuff go on sale recently, and Rare has been selling a lot of stuff pertaining to Banjo and Kazooie, as well as the Battletoads game, and some Sea of Thieves merch as well too. So hopefully you all had an opportunity to check this out. By the time you listen to this, there's a good chance that the sale is actually over, though some of these products are probably still going to be made available. If you're ever curious and you'd love to know kind of where you could actually go to get some of these, it's real easy. Head over to raregames.store/Black rare store exclusives. And that's how you're going to find some of these things. Now, if you've already taken a look, you might have seen something that we weren't really expecting with the kind of announcement. Black Friday usually comes, and in the past we've had some good deals on some cosmetics. Last year we had some deals on cosmetics, and it was really kind of nice. This year we have that in some cases, but in one instance it's actually really interesting because we found out that Monopoly now has a Sea of Thieves version. Now, if you're not familiar with Monopoly, I'm really surprised. It's probably one of the most prolific games that you can purchase, board games or tabletop games that you can purchase at just about any retailer in the world. And they tend to do a lot of themes. In fact, if you're not familiar, they've done just about every movie, TV show, and or comic character. A lot of games are starting to show up. I'm pretty sure we've seen Fortnite. When I think Sea of Thieves, and maybe this is just kind of how my mindset is because of what Sea of Thieves was perceived as when it first came out. Sometimes I forget that it's been almost 3 years since the game has come out, and a lot has changed. Because right now, looking at this Monopoly board, the front cover has 3 characters on it that were not in the game when the game launched, which is extremely surprising considering all things considered. You would think that Monopoly would kind of bunker down and have some of the things that are in the game that were there at the start. But really, the only things that were there are the Kraken and Plunder Outpost. That's about it. There's a Nightwolf galleon in there. There's a new type of ship, a brigantine that has a yellow and white livery set, and it also has a red flower on the mainsail and on the top flag. And we haven't seen this in game. We're not quite sure where it came from or how it pertains to this. And if they're able to render this out, it is assumed that this is probably something that will be coming to the game. We don't really know when or if it's tied to maybe a new Tall Tale. I imagine it will. We already have the Wild Rose set, so it can't be that. So we're just kind of waiting to see maybe if this is something that's tied to an upcoming event. But we have Lissetti, we have our Reaper, and we have Rathbone, or the Gold Hoarder, on the front cover. And if you're looking to purchase this, I do want to kind of iterate. This is a limited edition rare store exclusive. You can pre-order it now. The pre-order goes for $50 US, which is going to be a little bit less in the UK, but it's going to vary depending on where you purchase it. I'm sure if you purchase it in Canada, it'll probably be more expensive, as well as Australia, depending on what the current exchange rate is for the USD at the moment in your country. So yeah, $50. That is definitely something that fans of the game are going to go for. I would if this wasn't kind of the time where money is probably the tightest for me. Obviously, this is just my personal point where I feel like I can't buy it. I would love to buy it. I'd love to have it on my back shelf, but I just can't justify it at the moment. I'm hoping that this isn't as limited as they say. And if you're curious if it's just the board game, then yeah, it pretty much is. There is a gold cursed macaw that is going to be put in with this as well too. So there's a code that's going to come with the game. If you've taken a look at the RPG tabletop game that had livery sales for the Lord Guardian sales, that same situation where when you buy this, you'll be getting a gold cursed macaw that will be coming to the Pirate Emporium, if I remember correctly. I believe this is coming to the Pirate Emporium at a later date. I do not believe that it will be made available prior to 2021, though. So this is going to be coming out in January, the beginning of January, pending everything going well ordered. The cool thing about this, though, is it actually has the pieces and the board are all based around the game. So if you get a chance to take a look at the board, it has different islands as the different properties that you can go to, which is a funny thing to think about when you're actually looking at the actual board and thinking like how Sea of Thieves works. And the railroad stations are the different reputations, minus the Hunter's Call and the Sea Dogs. And I just think it's a really pretty board. I think it's cool that Sea of Thieves is now at a point where they have managed to get popular enough to be able to justify doing a Monopoly board. So I would imagine that the gentlemen over at Rare who take care of this have been working on this for a long time. And kudos to them for managing to get this. If you're curious about the type of pieces that are available, there is a compass, a skull, the shroud breaker, a galleon, a pig, and a chest. Looks like a captain's chest. Those are going to be the 6 pieces that are made available for the players to be able to play with. And of course, like the money itself is all going to be themed in actual currency as well too. But they'll have like the Reaper's mark on everything, and they'll have like a merchant or Athena, gold hoarder, the bilge rat or the Hunter's Call, order cells. Those are going to be all kind of the main symbols. Fitting, the bilge rat is actually the $1 currency on that, whereas the Athena is the $500 currency for this. Really funny to see kind of where the kind of lines lay as far as what they considered valuable versus not. This was really cool. Again, it's one of those things where I'd love to pick it up. I'd love to add it to my collection of Sea of Thieves merch. This is just a little outside of the realm of possible for me right now. But I don't know that there's any reason why these couldn't be made available at a later date, depending on deals. But if you're looking to get this for someone, say yourself, maybe for Christmas, or maybe you know someone who's a good friend of yours, and you want to get them a gift, or you have a loved one that would really get a kick out of this, or a family you'd love to sit down and play Sea of Thieves with in Monopoly form, this is going to be available, but it's not going to actually release until after the new year. So just kind of keep that in mind as maybe like an IOU to folks who are going to be looking to want to pick this up. The other exciting thing that happened this weekend, which actually is just ending up as the time of the recording, was the Gold and Glory weekend that was going on from November 27th to the 30th. And I hope you guys had a good time with it. I hope you enjoyed the gold pickings that you had out there. You got your reputation up. I know a few people were going out there trying to work on their Athena's fortune, and there was a pretty good time that I had. I went out with Lady Ursula, Mina Ferry from the Keelhauled podcast, as well as Sightless Combat for our Sunday morning stream. And we had a pretty good time going out, just working on some quests. We were subsequently attacked by a sloop in our galleon, which was really weird. They tried to sink us, I guess. I don't know. We were turning in a few things. It wasn't like we had a whole lot that we had worked on. We were working on one of the Grey Morrow voyages that ended up on Crook's Hollow. And we went over to Plunder Outposts to go turn those in. And as we were over there, just kind of turning stuff in, the sloop sailed up to us and proceeded to try and take us out. Well, it just didn't really work out for them. See, they sailed by and they came about. And as they were getting ready to try and put some shots into our galleon, I was able to get the board and subsequently drop their anchor, which, is kind of dead in the water when you're ship is sitting there. And even with Lady Ursula and Sightless Combat and Mina Ferry over there on the galleon, they still managed to put some holes in our ship. And it was getting kind of hairy there for a bit because we got some shots in. Thankfully, Lady Ursula put in most of the damage into their ship while Mina helped try and make sure that she got a couple shots in. But made sure that we stayed afloat. And thanks to Lady Ursula's heavy handiwork on the cannons and my work on the sloop, actually getting the guys not locked down and getting the ship locked down, we managed to come away with a fair amount of treasure that we were able to turn in. And while we didn't get a whole lot knocked out in that 2-hour stream that we typically do, it was nice to get some free loot to be able to turn in for the Golden Glory weekend. So it was really, really awesome of them. And we also managed to sail over to the shores of plenty after that and did some of our traditional actual fishing, because I don't know if you guys don't know, but Sightless Combat, he's an Xbox ambassador. He's been on the podcast in the past, and we're working on getting him to Pirate Legend. It's going to take a while, but we're looking forward to seeing it happen. And the way we're doing it is through Order of Souls, as well as the Gold Hoarders and the Hunter's Call. Fishing is one of the few things that is the most accessible in the game, and especially for someone without sight. And he really enjoys it. He's really good at it. He can really tell like when things are good to turn in or not turn in, reel in. He can tell when it's a really good time to reel in the fish, and he does a really good job of not losing them. And we're just slowly working on getting him up to Pirate Legend. So we've been having a good time with that, and it was really fun. We had a really good time. I know also in Discord, there's been a few people that have gone out and spent some time on the seas. I didn't get to spend as much time this weekend as I want, but at the same time, I'm also okay with not necessarily needing all of the gold that was available this weekend. And with my Athena rep being what it is, I'm kind of okay just slowly taking that little by little. I'm not too worried about when I'll hit 20 for that, because it's kind of the last grind, it's that last bit of reputation that I can really work on and do on my own outside of Arena, but I'm sure you guys already know how I feel about that. So it was great to see. I did want to put in Captain Nev's first mate's log that he put in. If you guys aren't familiar with this, I haven't had one in a while, and part of that's because of just the number of guests that I've had on. But I do love the first mate's log. It's a channel that's in our Discord server, and if you want, you can send it in through an email. You can also message it through me to Twitter, or however you can get a hold of me. You can always send your first mate's log. And if there's ever a time like this when there's not a whole lot really going on with Sea of Thieves, we're kind of in the middle of Thanksgiving holiday weekend. The devs are taking some time off, and we're currently just working on our Tales of the Damned stuff. Tales of the Damned? Wow, I've completely already forgot what this update was called. But we're already working on that. I've knocked out all of that, and I've just kind of been sitting back and seeing when the next update for Sea of Thieves is going to happen. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of other stuff going on in the gaming universe, so for me, I've been actually really busy with a ton of other stuff going on. So I haven't had a whole lot of time to focus on Sea of Thieves with like World of Warcraft and the new expansion coming out, as well as Destiny 2 and the raid that we're working on in that one. And just playing some other games as well. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is out. That's a really good one. And then, of course, we've got Cyberpunk 2077 coming out on the 10th. So it's just been a really busy time right now. And I've kind of enjoyed the fact that Sea of Thieves is kind of extending this update to kind of push it out till the December update. That November was really just kind of a moment where we could kind of take a breath and let the team kind of make sure things are going well. They're working on some big stuff. Like I mentioned before, if you guys haven't been over to the Insiders, they're making sure that there's a lot of content in there that is going to really kind of shape the future of Sea of Thieves and how it persists. I can't really say much more about that. It's not much more than what Joe Neitz talked about, but I'm sure if you guys have had an opportunity to jump in there, you're already familiar with what I'm referring to. And I would like to hear what some folks think about it when it is something that we can actually talk about, because it's going to be interesting. See how that all turns out. I'm interested. But getting back to the point of what I was saying, Captain Nev wrote into the First Mate's log over on Discord and says, "Piracy at its finest. My humble crew, Darth Mander and Witch King Robin, didn't realize what adventure the seas would take us on. We set off in our ship, the Red Baron, from Daggertooth Outpost to fight shadow skeletons. We might we met a kind sloop who allianced with us. We said our farewell at the Fort of the Damned, and off we went to light all the beacons aflame, the last one at Devil's Ridge. We set it a pretty white light, but volcanic skeletons had just arrived to start a ritual to unearth Red Ruth, who, if you don't know, is one of the Ashen Lords. We did, but then came a brig. We were well stocked and fired our cannons and shattered any incoming boarders. I boarded their ship, Robin blasted their ship, and with many cannonballs as he had, they finally sunk and were able to claim our well-deserved rewards from the Ashen Lord. Ashen treasures, and above it all, the Ashen Lord's skull. We departed to see our friends coming back. They were lucky. A skeleton galleon came upon us, firing their cannons, and we wanted to leave, and we dodged our way out of the fight and left the brig and the galleon to fight in the Red Sea. But they weren't done yet. We were headed for Galleon's Grave outpost, but they just kept pursuing us, and we scuttled our ship and left in our rowboat for Morrow's Peak outpost. They lost our scent, and we went looking for us, but nowhere could we be found. We turned in all our treasure. Be mindful of the Red Baron. We may be nice, but we can still fight hard. I love those rowboat plays. I've actually had a couple of those recently, and you never know like how it's going to turn out. If you're going to be able to get the actual rowboat, or if you are the one in the rowboat, if you're going to get away with it. It's always really sketchy. And the best you can do is just hope that you can turn and use rocks to your advantage. Kudos to you, Captain Nev and Darth Mander and Witch King Robin, on getting all of your treasure turned in. I was sailing with Davrim, and we were having a really good time. But we were sailing last weekend, and unfortunately, we went for a few hours. Maybe a few hours was just a little too long because we had quite the hull on our sloop, and we were doing really well. We had sunk a few ships. We had taken out the Captain Flameheart fleet event, and we're working on finishing up the Lorena Biltrat voyages when we got a little thirsty and headed out to the Devil's Roar and were pursued by a Reapers. Now, bear in mind, we were also running Reapers. In fact, we had been Reapers 5 for a while, but we also had our Reapers mark up and a Reapers chest on our ship as well. So there was very little to say that we weren't ready for PvP, and we were ready for PvP. But as we were sailing towards Morrow's Outpost, we were betting on a Shores of Gold play. We figured that would be the best way for us to be able to ditch out this galleon. It would be the fun thing to do. So we headed over to Galleon's Grave, and both of us hopped off and hit the pirate tail, or hit the pirate legend tail, the tall tail, to get the Shores of Gold. And as I was coming back, this was the killer, because as I was coming back, I noticed that our sloop had just hit 2 kegs in the water from Barrels of Plenty. I landed just in time to see our ship burst up into a bunch of flames and explosions, and it was too much because the galleon had the wind and they were coming down upon us. And it was just it was a real shame, because once they got our mast down, they were able to board and they were able to kill us, and our ship already had 2 kegs worth of holes. So the kegs really kind of did it in for us. If we hadn't worried about that, we probably could have managed dealing with them, because we had actually already dealt with 2 galleons earlier that night. Both of them pretty hungry for sloop food. And sometimes it doesn't always work out. We lost a lot of treasure, but at the end of the night, it was a risky play, and we didn't come out the other side of it. And it's the first time in a while I think I've lost a fair amount of treasure. Usually I'm the type that likes to turn in treasure more frequently, because it's one of those things. Like I mentioned, I think in the past, I like to deny treasure more than I like to have it as a big haul. For me, the big haul isn't what's cool about the treasure. It's being able to cash it in and have that gold, but also to deny that gold from other players. So with those two stories, I'm curious to hear from some of you guys. I really want to know. So write into me. Let me know if you've had a really good rowboat play, and if a rowboat has saved you in the past, and if so, what was the furthest you had to row to get your treasure safely turned in? I really want to know, because going from Galleon's Grave to Morrow's Outpost is pretty long. I think the last time I did it, I was over at Lonely Isle, and I rode to Daggertooth Outpost. That was the last time I had to do that. So I'm curious, have you gone further than I have? Have you gone further than Captain Nev and his crew have? What's the furthest you've had when it comes to doing a rowboat play, as it were? Ahoy there, pirates. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. If you don't know, hopefully you've already had an opportunity to take advantage of some of the deals that have been going on with Black Friday, with Cyber Monday. But if you don't know, you can actually pick up the new Xbox wireless controllers over on Microsoft.com or Xbox.com, actually, for $20 off. So $40 for a brand new Series X, Series S controller. I love these controllers. The build quality is solid. It feels really good in your hands. The grip on the matte finish is amazing. It's very tactile. It feels really good to feel like it's comfortable, as well as on the triggers as well. And this share button is really nice. The D-pad's excellent. I've really enjoyed mine. And for $40 down from $60, that's a big deal for a lot of us. So I just wanted to give you guys the heads up. If you're looking to pick up a new controller, they are backwards and forwards compatible. I'm using my Series X controller right now for my Xbox One in the other room, just because I love it so much, and I don't want to cause too much more wear and tear on the Cyberpunk and Sea of Thieves ones that I have. So I'm looking forward to this. Just as a side note, though, Green Man Gaming has a lot of really good sales going on right now. That is one of the affiliate links in the show notes. Please head over to Green Man Gaming if you are a console, or not a console player. If you're a PC player and you're looking to save money on Steam, Green Man Gaming is a great way to get codes for different launchers at a better deal. Use the affiliate link in the show notes to help out with that. And I wanted to thank you all for listening to the advertisements, if you did hear those. Next, I wanted to take an interesting approach. A lot of other podcasts I've noticed have gone around ranking things. And I thought, you know what? I never rank stuff. I should do a ranking once. And I think the last time I did do this was actually last year, towards the end of the year, when we were talking about how 2019 had rounded out and how we were feeling about it compared to 2018. So I wanted to take a quick look and just talk about some of the updates that we did get this year, especially given the situation. This year has been a rough year. Let's be honest. This has been an amazingly rough year for everyone. And to have an opportunity to still put out content, which is all content that is coming free to the game. We tend to forget that as we expect content to come out. And while we're not operating on any kind of costing expansion like World of Warcraft or Battle Pass like a Fortnite or Destiny, a lot of the revenue stream tends to come from Pirate Emporium or purchases of the game, especially considering the game has been pretty cheap lately. I think that the standard MSRP is around $40 in America, but I've definitely seen it down to 30, even 20 at times to be able to pick up the game and play it. Plus, it's on Game Pass, so perpetually there for fans that are already subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about some of the updates that we got this year in 2020 with all the stuff going on. This year has forced Rare to slow down the pace, something that I think we were hoping that they would do. in 2019 when they were committing to releasing one content update every month. Something that we saw tended to be either a little light on content, as it was just a smaller introduction of different things or story bits that were kind of unfolding the story as we kind of jumped on each new update every month. And it tended to get a little overwhelming, tended to have a lot of stuff going on, especially it didn't really leave room for things like the Summer of Sea of Thieves events, or the State of Decay a couple weeks where we're working on getting the actual livery set before it went to Emporium. So seeing how 2020 has kind of panned out, I think this is one of the better cadence content years for Sea of Thieves. Granted, we've only had 2 previous years. In the first year, we had big expansions that were big rollouts for the game. They were heavily judged by the community, but they also added a lot to the game, a lot that people wanted. And the idea that Sea of Thieves has no content is no longer an issue. No one has ever said, man, I really wish there was more content nowadays when there's so much to do and check out. But with this year forcibly has had some measures where they've had to take a month off. And granted, when I say month off, what I mean is not to say that they aren't working. What I mean to say is that they are working on content for the future. And that is something that is going to be really interesting to see just how 2021 pans out, because they're already promising us a lot of big content in 2021 when we get a chance to actually get there. Hopefully when things calm down and coconut fever isn't quite as dangerous as it is right now. Bear in mind, don't eat coconuts you aren't familiar with. So taking a look at this year, I wanted to take a look at and see what we actually got. And it starts off with the 2nd anniversary, which, due to the coconut fever pandemic, forced a lot of pirates to stay indoors, especially early in that year. And it was kind of a tough situation where they had to transition from the studio to home and working from home. But they still managed to ship ships of fortune. And that was our big introduction to the emissary system, to ledgers, and gave us a host of costumes that were teased a little bit prior with the Athena runs that we were doing earlier and getting the Athena's Fortune costume. And Ships of Fortune really capitalized on what we needed in Sea of Thieves, which was a reputation level boost to the cap, giving us reputation boosts, as well as an entire new reputation to actually grind out with the Reaper's Fortune or Reaper's Bones. And having that really capitalized on what I think is a future move that Rare should consider doing with prestiging levels, being able to retain the reputation significance of your level 75 gold hoarders, but being able to reset that rank and get a little bit on the side that says like, hey, you reset your rank. So here's a title, here's a costume, here's a cosmetic that you have access to because you've reset your reputation with them. And this is a very game aspect of the game. This is not something that is a very lore driven aspect of the game, but that this is definitely something that helps push people to work on a goal, to have a goal, to have something to do. Ledgers right now, I would say the emissary ledgers are one of the biggest pain points for fans of the game who want to grind stuff and have a reason to grind stuff. And the ledgers were great when they came out because it pushed us all to get these new cosmetics that were introduced as a result of getting into the first 2 tiers of the top 2 tiers of the ledger. And we haven't seen a change to that. And this was an update that came out in April. And we kind of expected that after a few months that the cosmetics would change from the sails to something else, like a figurehead or a hull. And they just haven't. And it's really curious why this current system has been neglected when it was not promised, but said that they were looking to change up the cosmetics when enough time had passed and people had had opportunities to get the sales. And if you haven't tried for the sales for the different emissaries, it's actually fairly easy to get into the top 25% because that's how it's broken down. It's in 25% increments, as far as I recall. And you actually get an achievement once you get all of them in the top tier for 5 months in a row, or at least for 5 months. And that was one of those things that a lot of people pushed for, but not too many people have really kept up with it. Not too many people really care to keep up too much with it because there isn't a cosmetic driving it. And that tends to be what Sea of Thieves is about. We tend to go for experiences and hunt down the cosmetics. And that's the goal that we're working towards in game. And that was all brought to us by Ships of Fortune. Ships of Fortune was the thing that introduced that huge drive. It put people out there hunting for treasure again. And that was a really amazing time to actually see how things were going. Shortly after that, we had a smaller update called Lost Treasures, which I'm not going to keep in this because I want to keep it to 5 introductions so far for this year, and kind of rank those. So the next big update that we got was Haunted Shores. And this was awesome because it introduced Flameheart. It confirmed him being senior, which a few of us had known for a while, but many of others had suggested it was junior. Junior is still MIA in the Sea of Thieves, and we haven't quite figured out who he is, although I have some new speculation on that that I'll probably touch on in a future episode. But Haunted Shores gave us ghost fleets, which really confused me as well as many others to this day of tripping over our words when we talk about fleets, because for the longest time it's been skeleton fleets and skeleton ships. But now we have ghost ships. And the Sea of the Damned had ripped open. These portals had birthed out these ghost fleets, these ghost galleons, and we were tasked with taking them down to ensure that Flameheart could not reclaim the Sea of Thieves for his own and do away with the pirates and our alliances, as it were. Next, we had the Ashen Winds, which I'm going to take into account during the November update where they adjusted the health. I'm going to speak to that version of Ashen Winds because that's kind of the best state that it's in at the moment and how that feels. But Ashen Winds introduced the crew, the captains or the commanders that Flameheart trusted to do things, to build his fleet, to jail his damned, to take care of the people that Flameheart needed to take care of. His Ashen Lords were that. And we had wondered how Ashen Lords were going to be introduced into the game. As you recall, back in Heart of Fire, we found out that the chest was a way to reclaim the Ashen Lords, and that Stitcher Jim is supposedly turning into an Ashen Lord since he stuck his hand in the cookie jar and Flameheart got really upset about it, and we still don't know where Wanda is, so that's kind of a weird thing. I'm really hoping that we get more story in 2021 now that I think about it. I really want to find out what's going on with this lore. I feel like it's kind of been stretched, and I blame Coconut Fever for this. It is completely Coconut Fever's fault. And I'm hoping that we kind of get back to our roots of storytelling in Sea of Thieves, because that's where I think that this game really shines. But Ashen Winds was met with some mixed reception. It was a really hard event on par with the Fort of the Damned, but it was anywhere out in the world where you had to sail to it and you had to complete it. And the fight itself, mechanically, is exceptionally well done because it really upped the game of what the skeleton lords had. No longer were you just summoning skeletons, doing a knockback, and shooting people with different weapons and stuff. This actually introduced lunging fireballs and molten balls of lava and doing lunges, as well as summoning an actual volcanic storm that rained brimstone down on your ship if it was too close and superheated the water around. So it really did a lot in the sense of expanding upon the boss mechanics that are present with our current Skeleton Lord system. And I really appreciated that tech part that came in with the actual game. And it introduced itself as a new world event. Although the balance behind killing certain Ashen Lords at different times to try and ensure that you got all of them, that RNG is still kind of a hit and miss for me, or a miss as far as how I feel that content update went out. After that, we ended up getting the Vault of Ancients, which was our new introduction, akin to the Haunted Shores, which introduced a new voyage of ghost fleets for the Order of Souls. The Vaults of Ancient introduced the Gold Hoarders, a new type of voyage, something that hasn't been in the game at all compared to like the Tall Tales. And this gave us an opportunity to hunt down pieces of a treasure or a treasure map and actually piece them together, and then go out and find a key, and then take that key to a specific island where there is a vault that you can open up, and you can either take the treasure out of there and sell it, or you can take the key to the Gold Hoarders and give them back the key. Most people usually opt to open the vault in lieu of the sheer amount of gold that is inside of them, depending on the value and reputation that you have with the Gold Hoarders. And it was a really fun way to bring in some of the vaults to the game outside of the Tall Tales that anyone could experience and get kind of accustomed. Some of the drawbacks to this were the fact that the vaults operated differently than the puzzle vaults for the Shores of Gold and for the Tall Tales, as far as like the Shroud Breaker, where once you complete opening up the puzzle, the door would stay open and not drowned. Whereas this one, once the door closes, the water fills in and you die inside. There is no safe haven. You have to be outside the vault when it shuts, or you lose your life and anything that you left inside of there. And it changed up the way that we see players on ships over at different islands. You know, now when you see an island based ship, you think maybe that they're actually working on a vault. And I've had success sailing with friends as we head over to a ship, only to find out that they are nowhere to be in sight, and stay out for quite a while, only to find out that they're probably doing a vault. And how you decide to go about either taking that treasure or taking their ship or sinking their ship and killing them and taking the treasure afterwards. It's a real interesting dynamic to push players to experimenting with other crews that they come across on the seas. And the last one that I wanted to touch on was the Fate of the Damned, which I totally botched the name of earlier in the episode. So apologies for the fans out there that are upset about that. But the Fate of the Damned is our Halloween event. It brought on a host of new cosmetics with ship liveries, weapons, as well as costumes and pets. And it really tried to capitalize on what had been laid into the groundwork for Sea of Thieves prior. In the first year for Halloween, we got the beacons and the Well of Fates on the Ferry of the Damned, and we got different colors depending on how we died. And with the 2019 update for that, we had the actual old boot fort was changed into the Fort of the Damned, and the Fort of the Damned had the ghost of Greymorrow occupying it, and we would summon him by introducing all the colors of the Well of Fates into different statues that actually bear the resemblance of the ferryman and different ways that he would have died. And it's interesting to set that up so that you can actually work on it, but it's shrouded in mist, so it always brought in different crews trying to tuck or trying to hide out on the island and steal the treasure or steal the key or sink your ship or kill you and just have fun leaving all the treasure there for you to come back and wonder if they're still hanging around in some sort of malicious kind of game of minds. I don't even know where I'm going with that one. But the Fate of the Damned introduced smaller voyages that allowed you to kind of use the bilge rats as a way to introduce people to the Fate of the Damned, or fate or to the well. No, what is it? The Well of Fates, I think. And introduce how you actually get flames, and then as well as actually using those flames to learn about some of the stuff going on around the seas. It's been something that I think Sea of Thieves in the team at Rare are working on right now, is to try and introduce content that reflects on some of the past history of the game. It's got a lot of stuff in it, and not all of it is stuff that gets used all the time. So Lorena's Legends of the Sea books are part of the Flameheart things, and we actually had the introduction of the events portion of our UI. So now when events show up, there's a specific place. You can see all of the events and their requirements to be able to get the different stuff that comes along with them. And you no longer have to be pushed out to the website to actually check your progress, which is nice. You can actually stay in the game, especially on Xbox. It's a lot more convenient to stay in the game and be able to check your progress on all that stuff and see what you have to work on next. The drawback to that was the design of it, and how I feel like that still needs some iteration to try and really explain to people without them getting too lost in the minutia of the different sections, to make sure that people are clear about what part they're working on and what they need to do to accomplish their goals to be able to unlock the cosmetics that are tied to those events. So those are the 5. We had Ships of Fortune, Lost Treasures, Haunted Shores, or not, sorry, I wasn't counting out Lost Treasures. So Ships of Fortune, Haunted Shores, Ashen Winds, Vaults of the Ancient, and Fate of the Damned. And after this break, I'll be right back with my top 5 and what I think they're going to be. And I'm curious to think what you would rank these as well. All right, I'm back, and I wanted to touch on the different content updates that we've gotten so far. Obviously, I'm expecting one in December because we've had one in December for a while now. And it started out with the Gilded Voyages. It moved into gifts, which a lot of people didn't really enjoy. And we don't quite know what we'll have this month, but it's going to be something from what I understand, as a result of November being a lighter month as far as content, but a bigger update as far as fixing some of the stability issues that have been going on with the game. I will say that this month, I've definitely noticed that the game is more stable. I'm still running into a lot of the same bugs that I typically run into, and I don't know if those are things that will ever get fixed with the game. There's always some wonkiness. I know in the Discord server, we've had a few people kind of mention that there's a spot, if you don't know, over in the Daggertooth Outpost near the tavern, and it's it's funny because wherever this spot is now, I haven't actually gone and looked for it, but there's a spot in Daggertooth Outpost near the actual tavern that if you happen to be walking around it, there's a place where you can actually fall through the world. And I don't know. I don't know if this is something that's been fixed yet. I don't think so because we haven't had an update. But I know Schlugenda on the tavern, as well as a couple other people, had mentioned this. And they said that if you spawn in Daggertooth Outpost, there's a spot near the tavern under the map, where you can drop under the map. It's right outside the tavern next to the legendary stairway. And you can get into the Legend Tavern from underneath, which that's funny. The fact that you can actually kind of glitch your way through the world without trying to. But Cannon Monkeys mentioned that they've had it in the past as well too. So I'm curious to know if anyone's run into this as well, if that's more of a well-known actual bug. I think it's hilarious. But getting to the top 5, so starting off with the worst update, and when I say worst update, I hope you know that I mean it with the most respect that I can give to the team. The team works hard to make this update. These updates come out. I hope that they don't feel like this update is particularly pushed on what they worked on, because it's not intended that way. But I have to say that the Ashen Winds is probably the worst update in my mind. It felt the most disconnected with the lore, even though we were getting lore characters. The event itself was exceptionally hard, and similar to Fort of the Damned, it was hard enough to detract more casual fans of the game from doing it because there was other ways to earn gold, and subsequently they've actually fixed it. So With the fix right now, it still lands in my number 5 spot as far as the updates go, but it is in a much better position than it was when it first came out. So I wanted to kind of leave you with the idea that if you haven't done it, it's worth doing now. The gold has been increased as far as what you get from it. The value has been increased from what you get for it. And it takes a lot less time to actually work on it. So in its current state, Ashen Winds is much better than it was at launch, but it still falls into that rank 5 spot for me. And part of that is actually due to the RNG. Dealing with the RNG of when it pops it's not a certain thing that you can actually go out and set to do. You can never set out to do an Ashen Winds right when you actually get into a session, and that's kind of a bummer. You have to wait for it to pop, and then you have to hope that no one else is doing it, or you have to fight them off as well, or potentially alliance with them and actually join in trying to kill them. But then you have to worry about divvying up the gold and then eventually betraying them afterwards. And it tends to get kind of messy. After that, I would say that the Vault of the Ancients is, yeah, I'd have to say Vault of Ancients is in my number 4 position. And it's kind of a tough situation for me because in all honesty, I actually really liked this update. I thought it brought some great things to the gold hoarders that I absolutely loved. The compass, finding the portions of the map is amazing. I love being able to know what an island is before I get the whole map and being able to get rewarded with achievements or commendations based on that. And I absolutely love this event, but it just wasn't a whole lot outside of that one main thing. That one main part of the actual game was what that entire update was about. And I think they even had the event, or I think the build rat notes was intended to come out with that, but I think it ended up getting pushed back as well too. But I might be misremembering that. Coming in at number 3, I'm going to say that the Fate of the Damned is next. It was a great introduction of a lot of really cool cosmetics to the actual game, not just to the Emporium, but it brought upon a fun time to experiment with the different lanterns and to go out and take on smaller or less threatening versions of the Ghost of Greymorrow. The fights were pretty quick, and they spaced it out in a really good time frame where it unlocked by week, and all of it was contained within the events page, so it was easy to track. And having it piecemealed out week to week to week actually felt good, because I would go out, I would do everything that I could in a couple sessions, and then I felt free to not have to worry about it. I could do something else if I wanted to, and it didn't feel like I had to do everything all up front and try and get it all knocked out when it was still popular to do. And bear in mind, this is coming from someone who's recently decided to try and avoid pushing myself to do that. But I still feel that drive whenever there's new content to go out and explore and see how it plays. But this kind of feels like the way I would like to have content designed. I would like to have a whole month actually planned out week by week by week and have it gated so that I have something to look forward to each week. If anyone's been watching The Mandalorian, it's kind of a bummer that you can't just binge the entire show all at once, but there's something about looking forward to that Friday and having something to watch over the weekend, to be able to enjoy having that bit of content that comes out each week, and know that, the next week you may not like this week's worth of stuff, but in next week there's going to be something different. And it really kind of gives you a little bit more to chew on for that monthly update. Number 2 would definitely have to be Haunted Shores. I absolutely love the ghost fleets. I think it was a great way to add a variety to the Order of Souls, and it really gave us a big taste of lore with Flameheart kind of showing himself as since the actual Seabound Soul. The Seabound Soul was the first time we ever saw Flameheart in the sky. This is his biggest return in Haunted Shores. It's crazy that it went 6 or 7 months since we'd seen Flameheart, and to have him back and yelling at us, a lot of people got sick of it, and it was another world event, so it was tough. But the fact that you could always grab the actual voyages and work on those was great. And to have these things drop supply crates with little ghosts floating above them was a beautiful touch. It was a great way to show that they have learned what some of the pain points were from the cursed sales update and the iteration that they've done with the cursed fleets, and showing that they can do cursed sales 2.0 and really have it impact, really have it show like you can build up some drama around this event. And that was a great way to introduce the actual bridging of the two realms, from the Sea of the Damned and the Sea of Thieves, and how they cross over, because we've been using all these dark relics to weaken the veil between these two realms, and how because of Duke and his toiling with that, and trusting with Stitcher Gem, that Wanda has been able to strengthen Flameheart's bond to our world from the Sea of the Damned, and to see how that plays out is going to be. I hope we're really going to be able to get to see that. I'm looking forward to it. And coming in the number one spot, of course, has to be Ships of Fortune. There was so much that came in with this update. It was really great to see the emissary system. It really increased the threat, and giving us a pure PvP faction, giving us a Reaper's Bones to actually utilize the Reaper hideout in the middle of the ocean, something that we'd been seeing the slow buildup over the last year, and finally seeing that eventual end game, the actual the hideout itself. And I'm hoping for that other shoe to drop. I want to see what's underneath that door. I want to know what's going on down in there, because I have tons of speculation on it, but I can't say for sure until we actually get in there, and I'm excited to do that. But getting the increase in reputation for the original three factions was great. It pushed everyone to start working on getting to 75. At first the numbers were off, but by the end of it, they've definitely kind of tuned it so it's a little bit better to grind out without just completely annihilating the last 10 levels of Athena Fortune in the first week, because they just didn't have the math right on the bonuses and stuff. So, but it also brought in all of the cosmetics that came with it, all the ship liveries, all the costumes. All of those look great. The Merchant Alliance is still some of the best costumes that I've seen in the game. I absolutely love the design of those, and I'm looking forward to seeing like what gets changed, if we're going to get additional ones in the future, or if we're going to get new reputation or increased reputations, things like that. Ships of Fortune really, really showed what year 2 of Sea of Thieves could be. And I still feel this way, if not for Coconut Fever, this year potentially could have been one of the best years Sea of Thieves has had since launch. And even with the introduction, they were doing really well. But I'm glad that they decided to take time to really kind of like take some months off to balance, to bug squish, to make sure that they're not spending too much time getting content out for the sake of getting content out, and actually trying to make sure that people are appreciating that the game is in a good state while they push out new content. Because if it's not playable, there's not really a reason to join in on the new content if you can't play it, if you're butting up against really big issues. So I love these updates. I think this has been one of the most interesting years that Sea of Thieves has had outside of the first one. The first one really had a through line, a plan of what they wanted to do, and they executed on it masterfully. Year 2 was really kind of a way to find a way to release content in a sustainable manner, and to actually find a sustainable manner for the game to continue to produce revenue streams so that they can justify the production value or the production costs on that. Year 3 so far has been interesting, with them moving from the studio to working from home and still putting out content. I think they've done a great job as a result of those conditions. I would have loved to have seen what 2020 could have been had it not been for Coconut Fever. And I'm looking forward to what 2021 brings. Hopefully when things get back to a state where the team can start working in the studio again, where they can kind of get back to what they are used to doing. And it's interesting to see just people coming and going, and the new ideas being pushed out there. And I'm looking forward to seeing like what's coming in December, and how that's going to compare to the latest 5, 6, if you want to consider Lost Treasures, but the last 5 major updates that we've had in Sea of Thieves this year. So far, it's been a good year, and I'm hoping that December will really round it out as a good update for us to end the year on as we look forward to 2021. But that's so far away, it feels like. And there's so much that's going to be coming in the future to distract us. So I'm going to leave it at here. I thought it was going to be a light, well, I guess it was a lighter news week. So it's been a light news week, but it was a good discussion week for me to kind of get some of the stuff that I've been thinking about off my chest. So I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me to chat. I still would love to hear your guys' thoughts, your feedback on this, because you're part of the discussion, honestly. If it wasn't for you guys sharing the podcast, writing in the reviews, joining the Patreon, listening passively as a way to keep up with the game when you're not actually playing it, all of these things matter to me so much. But I really want to hear from you. I really want to hear your viewpoints on this, because as a solo show, I've got my opinion and I can bring on a plethora of guests, and I try to, but really it's the listeners, you who are listening to this, that I want to hear from. I want to know what your favorite update was. Like, what's your ranking on this? I want to hear your rowboat stories. I want to hear your thoughts on how this year's been so far, how you feel about the state of the game, what you want from the game. I know what I want from the game, lots of things, but I'm curious what other people are looking forward to. So next update, we probably won't know what's going on with December. So if you want to send in your feedback, I would love to get it, because I think I might need it for next week's update, because I think we might have a light news week as well. I would love to get some community conversation in on next week's episode. And if we do get a lot of news, I'll push it. You know what? I'll push it out to the week after, and I want community feedback. But it's dependent on you. You're the key in this situation. Unless you bring the content for me, I won't get to discuss your thoughts on this. So let me know. If you want to get a hold of me, there's plenty of ways to do it at CAPT_LOGUN on Twitter, CAPTLOGUN@gmail.com. You can always join the Discord with First Mate's Log, as well as questions and feedback in the podcast section in the Discord server. If you want to reach me, there's tons of ways to contact me in the show notes. The show notes, honestly, they have all the affiliate links. They have all of my contact information. There's plenty of ways to get in touch with me. And this is probably the week I'm going to ask for you guys to send in feedback the most, because I really am curious to hear how people's Thanksgiving went, if you celebrated it, how your Golden Glory weekend went, who got the most gold, how much gold did you guys get, and also what your favorite updates were, as well as some of your favorite rowboat plays. So those are your homework for the podcast. I want to know for this upcoming week, and if I get enough, then I may just do an entire episode just on your guys' comments and commentary. That's going to do it for the show, folks. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, definitely let me know. Definitely feel free to support me in the ways that you can, especially if it's a way that is the easiest for you. I appreciate that the most. And with that, pirates, thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.
Hey, I'm Tom.
And I'm Stuart.
And we're from the Dungeons & Dragons Lorecast.
We talk about all things connected to D&D lore.
And we're on the Robots Radio Network. So if you're into Dungeons & Dragons or you're into lore, then come check us out. You can find us on any podcatcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get podcasts.
Roll more dice.
That's the Dungeons & Dragons Lorecast.
Are you worried you don't have all the answers?
Have you ever found yourself in an internet rabbit hole?
Call Mystery Time live today! It's a new detective business.
With plenty of heart.
And a questionable track record.
We're only in the office for an hour.
Every Wednesday.
Come hang out.
Solve a mystery.
It's a podcast.
It's a live show.
It's a swell time.
Subscribe now!
The producers of Mystery Time Live ask you kindly not to take the advice or guidance of the host because they have no idea what they're doing. No mystery will actually be fully solved unless intervention by a spontaneous outside source or sheer luck. You can find them live on the Twitch app and find their podcast later on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Google, and iTunes. Listening may cause hurtful to your death or loss of sanity. We are sorry. This is probably legally binding and you cannot sue us.